For children, the anticipation of Christmas is a unique blend of excitement and agony, all centered around what Santa Claus could bring. Many endure long lines at the mall just to whisper their wishes and desires into the ear of the jolly old elf himself. Among the most beloved holiday traditions is watching classic films. One movie is so popular that a cable network devotes a 24-hour marathon to it every winter: A Christmas Story. Ironically, this film features one of the most famous and famously grumpy depictions of Santa Claus. An elf who is anything but jolly, is clearly ready to go home, and has absolutely no tact when young Ralphie offers his sincere Christmas wish. Join us as we dive into the profanity, the bizarre timeline, and everything else that makes this 1983 classic endure on today's Box Office Babbler. In the United States, Christmas has evolved into a sprawling winter holiday that fundamentally centers on the joy and anticipation of children, offering a profound emotional uplift through the spectacle of gift giving and school recess. While many lament the commercialization of a holiday originally intended to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, no film in the entire Hollywood canon captures the unique, consuming secular joy of that transformation better than the 1983 classic A Christmas Story. The film A Christmas Story is a nostalgic, humorous collection of vignettes narrated by an adult Ralphie Parker, looking back on a chaotic Christmas season in a 1940s ish Midwestern town. The central plot revolves around 9-year-old Ralphie Parker's desperate quest to receive his ideal Christmas gift, an official Red Ryder carbine action 200 shot range model air rifle BB gun. The campaign starts when Ralphie tries to convince every adult in his life, his mother, his teacher, Miss Shields, and even a disgruntled department store Santa, that he needs the BB gun. But the obstacle is that every adult he asks rejects his request with the iconic warning, "You'll shoot your eye out." There are some key subplots and vignettes, though. One is the old man's prize. Ralphie's father, the old man, wins a fragile, hideous, but beloved leg lamp in a contest, which his mother detests, leading to the dramatic Battle of the Lamp. There's a triple dog dare. Ralphie's friend Flick gets his tongue stuck to a frozen flagpole after being issued a triple dog dare by his friend Schwartz. There are bullies. Ralphie and his younger brother Randy and his friends are constantly terrorized by the neighborhood bullies, Scott Farkas and Grover Dill, culminating in Ralphie snapping and fighting Farkas. The decoder pin. Ralphie eagerly awaits his little Orphan Annie decoder pin, only to be disappointed when the secret message is revealed to be a crummy commercial for Ovaltine. And the soap incident. Ralphie accidentally lets slip a swear word, which he learned from his father, and gets his mouth washed out with a bar of Lifebuoy soap. On Christmas morning, Ralphie is disappointed that his dream gift is not among the presents he receives. However, his father directs him to one last hidden box, which contains the coveted Red Ryder BB gun. Ralphie immediately rushes outside to try it and almost immediately shoots his glasses off when the BB ricochets back at him. He breaks his glasses while searching for them in the snow, but cleverly lies to his mother, blaming it on an icicle to avoid getting in trouble. The family's Christmas dinner ends in disaster when the Bumpus family's hound dogs invade the house and devour their Christmas turkey. The Parkers are forced to go out for a memorable, if unconventional, Christmas dinner at a local Chinese restaurant. The film concludes with a sentimental reflection by the adult Ralphie, who calls that Christmas the best gift he ever received. I first learned about A Christmas Story in 1985 when a teacher mentioned he saw the movie on home video and suggested I resembled Ralphie Parker. Naturally, I rushed to the local video store to rent it and share it with my family. While they didn't agree with my teacher's assessment, we enjoyed the film, except for my mother, who was never a fan of comedies. The movie's enduring appeal lies in its focus on everything a child looks forward to in a secular Christmas celebration. Indeed, it's not a religious film. The only clear reference to the Nativity is a choir singing Go Tell It on the Mountain. Although the Parkers appear to be dressed in their best clothes while putting up the tree, suggesting that they may have returned from a Christmas Eve service. The film firmly grounds its holiday themes in consumerism, family tradition, and childhood desire. A Christmas Story initially got off to a slow start at the box office. One likely reason for this modest performance was poor demographic timing. The target audience, those who were in their pre-teens in the late 1930s, were in their mid-50s when the film was released, an age group often preoccupied with costly life events like college tuition and weddings rather than a nostalgic trip to the theater. Consequently, the film earned only $20 million at the 1983 box office, securing MGM a modest profit. However, the film went on to become a massive financial sleeper hit on home video. Between 2000 and 2010 alone, it sold 6.5 million copies on DVD and Blu ray, with an annual distribution reportedly reaching half a million copies every year by 2010. This popularity was cemented by its television presence. After becoming a regular feature on TNT in 1997, it was elevated to a 24-hour nonstop Christmas marathon every year since 2004. Today, its cultural significance is recognized by its preservation in the Library of Congress National Film Registry. The precise setting of A Christmas Story is a subject of considerable debate online, as the film offers a collection of deliberately contradictory historical clues. Evidence for an earlier date includes the family's 1938 Oldsmobile and a 1937 magazine read by Ralphie's mother. Crucially, the calendar date shown in the film, with December 1st on a Friday, only occurred in 1939. This year is further supported by the presence of Wizard of Oz characters at the department store, as that film was released in 1939. Conversely, other elements point toward 1940 or later. The sequel, A Christmas Story Christmas, explicitly states that it is set in 1973 and 33 years after the original events, which would place the original film in 1940. The presence of a man in a military uniform also suggests a timeline after the 1940 draft, or even after the U.S. entry into World War II in late 1941. Most problematic is the little Orphan Annie Decoder Ring, which was issued in 1940, but by then the radio show's sponsor had already changed from Ovaltine, as shown in the film, to Quaker Oats. Ultimately, I believe the contradictions serve the filmmaker's purpose. Neither the original film nor the 2022 sequel mentions major political concerns of their respective eras. World War II and Hitler for the original, or Vietnam and Watergate for the sequel. Writer and narrator Gene Shepard, whose childhood loosely inspired the story, was focused on achieving a feeling of deep nostalgia and capturing the emotional truth of a bygone era, rather than adhering to strict chronological accuracy in any single year. But let's bring the debate back. Every year, fans revisit this Christmas classic, and the question remains, what year did Ralphie and the Parker family's most memorable Christmas truly happen? We've narrowed the window down to four possibilities: 1939, 1940, 1941, or 1942. Drop your theory in the comments. The challenge: don't just pick a year, justify your answer with tangible evidence from the film. a specific toy, a cultural reference, a calendar clue, or something like that. We can't wait to read your compelling arguments and finally settle this decades long debate. The Santa at the department store is humorously grumpy, but his demeanor sheds light on the often overlooked rigors of being a department store Santa Claus. We should view the Santa Ralphie encounters not as an anomaly, but as a product of his environment and appreciate the character for what he represents. Just a humorous way to play Santa Claus. But what are the challenges in playing Santa? First, there are significant physical challenges. Santa must often endure wearing thick, multiple layers of velvet, faux fur, and often suffocating padding to achieve the proper physique, which is a necessary burden for many, but not myself. While these elaborate costumes, combined with unrelenting, long shifts under blistering warm department store lights, create a constant battle to maintain core temperature and hydration, leading to risks of serious heat exhaustion. The iconic scene with Ralphie and Santa perfectly captures this plight. He is visibly struggling, showing clear signs of exhaustion, fatigue, and dehydration. The poor fella is desperate to shed his suit the moment the doors close and simply go home. To mitigate this occupational hazard, the industry urgently needs to adopt some modern solutions like breathable, moisture wicking costume materials and mandatory scheduled hydration breaks. More demanding than the physical stamina are the intense emotional and psychological requirements. Despite the demanding costuming and long hours, Santas are expected to remain perpetually in character. This requires them to be quick minded, adept improvisational actors capable of navigating a host of complex and delicate situations. They must field difficult questions and deliver honest sounding yet creative answers to preserve the magic, often under immense pressure. These requests can range from items beyond the family's financial reach to deeply emotional pleas, such as hopes for reconciling divorced parents or concerns about deceased loved ones, all without disappointing the child. Furthermore, a Santa must be perfectly versed in the entire spectrum of Christmas lore, from the Nativity story and the names of reindeer to the plots of all the popular Christmas films. The toll this level of authenticity takes is immense. The fatigue of Ralphie's Santa, coupled with the desire to clear the line before the store closes, manifests as a break in his professionalism. He steps out of character both to limit the children's time on his lap and later, more explicitly, when Ralphie asks for his rifle. Finally, Santas must also be prepared to deal with inappropriate behavior and potential conflict. This can range from a parent aggressively pushing a frightened child onto Santa's lap to more serious situations involving threats from angry or frustrated adults. To mitigate these risks, the Santa's helper is often a discreetly trained security guard or even an off duty police officer ready to intervene if necessary. In contrast to this modern security protocol, the Santa scene in A Christmas Story flips the script, portraying the helpers as a source of inappropriate behavior. This scene strikingly echoes the earlier bullying of Scut Farkas and his toady, suggesting that the store Santa is simply another iteration of the neighborhood bully, with his two helpers acting as his intimidating enforcers. This time, however, the aggression is exerted under the false veneer of Christmas magic and the presence of parents. This kind of heavy handed, intimidating behavior from a store Santa and his team is an example of unprofessional conduct that would be unacceptable in a 21st century setting. Today, the hiring of a department store Santa Claus necessitates specialized training and rigorous vetting, far beyond the afternoon classes humorously shown in The Simpsons pilot episode. Contemporary standards require extensive background checks to avoid controversy, ensuring Santas are properly prepared for the high emotional and physical rigors of the job. This professionalism stands in stark contrast to our film's setting. The Santa in A Christmas Story is likely an overworked employee in post Depression suburban America, a setting often played out for comedic hardship. This was clearly an unprepared and unqualified Santa. It is hardly surprising, then, that he appears grumpy, perpetually rushed, and aggressive. This outdated, unprofessional approach culminates in his infamous retort, "You'll shoot your eye out," a dismissive line no mid 2020s mall Santa would dare utter. Modern corporate standards prioritize patience, customer experience, and a strict avoidance of anything that might cause parental anxiety, making the film Santa a humorous historic relic. When helping his father change a flat tire in the classic film A Christmas Story, young Ralphie loses a lug nuts and lets out a curse. The scene's humor comes entirely from its euphemistic description. "Oh, fudge," the narrator explains. Except I didn't say fudge. I said it. The F dash 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 word, the queen mother of all swear words. You can tell this movie was not a product of the present day. If it had been released recently, Ralphie would have been heard saying the actual word, though it's debatable whether or not that would be funnier than the creative description. The actual word would not fit the narrative. The film consistently censors all the old man's profanity with gibberish words, a colorful second language that keeps the humor intact. The different levels of offensiveness we assign to swear words often have their roots in history, particularly the Norman conquest of England. For a time, nobles spoke Norman French, and their words, such as those describing meat like beef and mutton, were considered more refined. Meanwhile, the Anglo Saxon words, which often named live animals like cow and sheep, were used by the common farmers and were considered improper. This class distinction explains why the Anglo Saxon word shite became a profanity, while the more polite term manure, derived from a Norman French word related to cultivating the land, did not. The precise etymology of the F word remains one of the greatest enduring mysteries in English linguistics, despite extensive research. We can confidently dismiss a persistent urban legend that it is an acronym, meaning something like fornication under consent of the king. Linguistically, the word's origins are thought to be Germanic or possibly Latin, perhaps tracing back to a root meaning to penetrate. However, the etymological trail regrettably goes cold after the 15th century. Early recorded uses were found primarily in England and Scotland, but written documentation is scarce for two reasons. Literacy was largely confined to the elite, and the majority of the surviving texts from that era are religious documents. Given its probable use as a vulgar term in Middle English, likely describing the mating behavior of farm animals, it was used by the common folk and therefore consistently avoided by religious clerics and the posher classes who compose the bulk of the surviving literature. Today, many people who consider themselves refined choose to avoid profanity entirely. My mother's rule was simple: if you can't say it in church, don't say it at all. As language evolves, our view of certain words change. While simple words like hell or damn are generally accepted because they often appear in religious texts, the F word remains highly charged. Ralphie's mother, by enforcing her own verbal boundary, was not just helping her son become more polite, she was teaching him how to navigate the complex social landscape of language and choose words that demonstrate respect for himself and for others. Sorry, I was unable to fit a discussion about the leg lamp or the flagpole scene into this 20-minute video, but don't worry, I didn't forget them. I saved those deep dives exclusively for channel members. Join up if you want to see how those major conflicts play out. But before you go, here are a few other ways to keep the discussion going. We do take input into what we cover, and you have 1 week left to vote on our first video of 2026. Will it be The Abyss, E.T., Cocoon, or Short Circuit? Because the vote is currently tied, your single vote actually has the power to decide the outcome. Don't waste it. Let your voice be heard. See the description below for a link. And to make sure you're here to see the results, make sure you're subscribed. A Christmas Story holds a singular, treasured place in American holiday traditions, attested to TNT's commitment to a 24-hour marathon for 21 consecutive years. Its annual broadcast allows us to share in the simple yet profound joy of Ralphie Parker trying out his new BB gun, a moment as enduring as George Bailey's redemption or Hans Gruber's infamous fall from the Nakatomi Tower. Our next discussion centers on Sidney Pollack's 1982 classic, Tootsie. We'll analyze the seismic shift in Michael Dorsey's perspective, the profound empathy and self-awareness he gained by only experiencing the world as a woman named Dorothy Michaels. We then turn to the famously open-ended ending to tackle two major narrative uncertainties. The Julie question. Given the scale of his deception, was Michael's relationship with Julie permanently relegated to the friend zone? Or did their connection prove strong enough to build something new? And the professional aftermath. What career path was left to a man who fooled an entire industry and an entire nation for a year? Was Michael's honesty enough to save his acting career? We offer our best theories on the film's sequel that never was. However you celebrate your winter solstice holidays, I hope you do so with joy, surrounded by loved ones. See you next year.